At the center of all love I stand, and from that center I, the soul, will outward move. From that center I, the one who serves, will work. May the love of the divine self be shed abroad in my heart, through my group and throughout the world. May the love of the divine self be shed abroad in my heart, through my group and
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our work where we are dealing with attracting financial resources for hierarchical purposes. DK tells us this may be the crux of the whole problem, and I think it's so difficult for the average dogmatist to think that, in their view, an all-powerful and all-conquering Christ somehow needs financial resources, and that the hierarchy of his church triumphant needs what we call something so mundane as money to make their appearance and to bring humanity into the right condition for the Aquarian Age. But obviously the problem is that humanity too must do its part, and that is done through their sense of values and demonstrating that these values can be considered spiritual as well as material values. So we are told that humanity must make its effort as well, and in that famous painting which portrays Christ in the desert with his staff drawing upon the desert sand with the dark figure that we assume to be the presence of Master Moria at the time. Basically, he said, by human hands and human feet shall the temple be erected, the temple of the new age. So we have to play our part, no question about it. Now I'd like to read just a little bit, kind of an interesting section here from the externalization of the hierarchy. It tells us a little bit about the different types of ray forces which are operative at this time. And this is a long section in the externalization of the hierarchy about the Jewish group. And he puts all this in context, and the context includes the ray energies which have to do with the monetary force. He says here that when the mind aspect, the third aspect of the personality, is more fully developed, and let's remember that the Jewish group came from, well, by and large, that is, the original nomads. They came from the previous solar system that was ruled by the third ray. It was the first of the major solar systems, and they crossed a bridge which had to do with the fourth ray. Both of those rays are very important when considering the Jewish force and the problems which have arisen from that amalgamation or attempted amalgamation of the energies of the previous solar system with our own second major solar system. So anyway, the mind aspect has to be more fully developed, and we can certainly see that when we look at humanity at the close of the Piscean Age, so full of belief, so full of dogma, unthinking dogma, we might say. He says, then the focus of the effort of the dark forces will change, and the problem of the Jews will disappear. He does, speak about this group as having to set an example and being, in a way, a microcosm of humanity entirely, and kind of contributing to a spiritual aristocracy in the future. Maybe that's hard to see at the present time, but that's how he sees it hundreds of years ahead. He says, mankind is not yet handling the problems, its problems intelligently, and hence the discussion about the mental nature. Thus the forces and energies of the creative process are exceedingly active at this time in preparing what I might call the, quote, material of the world and the substance of all the four kingdoms in nature for the coming changes. As the plowman turns the soil in his field and harrows it, and so brings that which is underneath to eventual fruition, so a similar process is taking place in the world today, and all is preparatory for the sowing and its resultant effects. I think, we're talking about the sowing of the seeds for the new age. These effects will continue or constitute the new Aquarian culture and civilization. In this process, the hierarchy is taking a definite and influential part, and is working more uniquely and specifically than ever before in the history of the world, under the instruction and vital aid from Shambhala. So we see a very interesting chart here, which puts the various forces in context and which distinguishes one from another. We see the Shambhala force connected with the planetary head center, and it determines the plan. It's on the first ray. And Sanat Kumara is there as its expression, and it's in the field of politics, and it's a new force. And it's the force of the destroyer. I should also say the force of the enunciator. That's another aspect of the first ray force. Then there is the hierarchical energy with divine love, wisdom, and its expression. The two expressions, because it's a dual force, a dual energy, are the Buddha and the Christ. And it's connected with the heart center, the planetary heart center. And the field that it works in is religious or spiritual. It inspires, and it's considered permanent, at least in this solar system, the ongoing force of the second major solar system, and it's a building force. Now, humanity's energy should be intelligence, and connects with many people today, hopefully. And sometimes, well, here it talks about humanity being the planetary throat center and involved with education and the will to evolve, let's say. The third ray is there, and the intellect is developed. Now here comes the Jewish force, and it looks at it as temporary. It's very Saturnian in a way. The soul of Judea is on the first ray, the personality is on the third, but the very basis of the Jewish force comes from a previous solar system ruled by the third ray, connected with the planetary solar plexus and conditioning world emotion and sensitivity. Interesting, you might not expect that. And notice the rays that are involved here and how financially connected these rays really are. The third ray, the seventh aspect of the third ray, maybe not so much the seventh ray itself, but the seventh aspect of the third ray. And we do know that both of those rays, however, are very much involved in the precipitation, the creative precipitation of the financial energy. And he simply sums it up. There's much more to it, of course, but he sums it up here as magic and money. Now, who controls money? Well, there are all kinds of stories that it's only the Jewish group that controls money. That you can't even tell anymore who is the Jewish group. There's so many people that came from the previous solar system, and they're not in the Jewish tradition at all. In other words, they're born into different types of ethnic groups, but nevertheless, they are the monads or the nomads who wandered from the previous system. And this is the force that has to be straightened out, not just the third ray of creativity, but the seventh aspect by which that creativity is crystallized and manifested, hopefully into forms that are needed. The magical process and the monetary process have to be used to manifest what starts out as the divine plan up there in Shambhala. And then one of the very interesting things, I'll just continue it, the materialistic forces are distinguished from the Jewish force. And it's just simply the matter aspect, and it has to do not even with the ethers, it has to do with the dense physical substance inherited from the previous solar system and from the moon chain, and connects with the planetary sacral center, as does the Deva kingdom, which is interesting. So it conditions substance, and note the rays. The fifth aspect, the fifth ray aspect of the first ray, and is involved with what's called generation, and I suppose regeneration of the dense physical forms which so far go a long way to resist the divine plan. And when we talk about mind here, we're talking about concrete mind. So just think of the fifth and the first ray together, and think of how much they challenge through the possible dangerous use of atomic energy, the first and the fifth ray, the plans for the externalization and the coming into the Aquarian age. In other words, humanity might destroy itself. And that is precisely what Madame Rurik says that these materialistic forces want to do. They want to promote that great explosion of which the Tibetan warns, and as Madame Rurik says, and then to float away on the wreck, the dramatic language that she uses. Now, if the money force can be straightened out, that's not going to happen, because a kind of manifestation will occur which will be for the upliftment of everybody, and then the sharing will occur, and the peace will arise, and the house cleaning so necessary to the return of the Christ will take place in the political and religious field, and I might also add the financial field, and then this very present danger will be averted. Okay, I think an interesting series of forces, and kind of telling us where the money force is operating, and giving us the idea that it isn't operating as it should, and that we have to help to meditate our way into, or help humanity through our meditation to have a better, more plan-centered use of this very powerful, well-established, primordial energy. Okay, now let's get into our meditation. We'll bring in the light, as we align as the soul. And try to see all things in that light of the soul. And as we enter into this field of attracting what is needed in the great symbol we call money, we realize that all this is governed by certain occult laws. The laws of the will of the great beings, and they cannot be broken. A law is a law. And we cannot really deviate from it. I mean, we may attempt, but it will come to no good, and it will be counter to what is divinely intended. So, the first we realize the occult law that to those who give shall be given, so that they can give again. We might call it the law of the vacuum, the law of the vortex. A vacuum is created, and into that vacuum, through the act of giving, comes the divine supply. So, we achieve the necessary personality quietness together, and we ask ourselves these usual questions. And it always is a good thing to repeat the questions and to confirm our response to these questions. If money is one of the most important things needed today for spiritual work, what is the factor which is at present deflecting it away from the work of the hierarchy? We know the Buddha has much to say about this in the Four Noble Truths, where desire for the phenomenal world and for that which passes causes so much human grief. The second question, what is my personal attitude towards money? And do I regard it as a great and possible spiritual asset, or do I think of it in material terms? What is my responsibility in regard to money which passes through my hands? And of course, by whatever means in this modern day that money is appropriated, and am I handling it as a disciple of the Masters should handle it? we're familiar with the ancient story of the initiate dramatist Hercules of the Atlantean period, the story of the Hydra, all the negative uses of higher forces which hold the human being and humanity as a whole imprisoned in the lower worlds. And one of the most powerful symbolic heads of the Hydra is about the wrong use of money. Does this have any power over you, over me? We remember that fear is the great dweller on the threshold as far as humanity is concerned. And the two glamours of the wrong use of money and the glamour of fear do affect so many people. But if we are at all affected by this Hydra head, do we have a plan to overcome it, to kneel, to lift the Hydra and this head into the clear light of day on the Buddhic plain? Can we see the Hydra and its heads wilting as a true intuitive vision of reality is achieved, and human beings are no longer captivated by the age-old glamours and illusions surrounding money? Master Moria tells us that in the future men will vie with each other to do good, and that will certainly affect the flow of money and the sharing that must come before the Christ dares to reappear in the midst of beglamored humanity. So let us ponder on the redemption of humanity through the right use of money. We can just imagine what it would be if the projects of the ashrams were rightly financed throughout humanity. It would be quite different from the way it is now, where this concretized energy, he tells us, is at present largely used for purely material purposes and for the satisfaction, where the individual is concerned, of purely personal desires. But rather, money can be seen as a great stream of flowing golden substance, passing out of the control of the forces of materialism and into the control of the forces of light. Into the hands symbolically of the Christ and his masters and the initiates and disciples, it means real responsibility here. For building a new world. And to reaffirm this very positive vision, we use the following invocative prayer with focused mental concentration and from a heartfelt desire to meet spiritual demand. O Thou, in whom we live and move and have our being, the power that can make all things new. Turn to spiritual purposes the money in the world. Touch the hearts of men everywhere, so that they may give to the work of the hierarchy that which has hitherto been given to material satisfaction. The new group of world servers needs money in large quantities. I ask that the needed vast sums may be made available. May this potent energy of thine be in the hands of the forces of light. And then we visualize the work to be done by those groups which claim our present allegiance, any group which we may know of that is attempting to carry out the hierarchical plan. And through the creative imagination, we will see untold and unlimited sums of money pouring into the hands of those who seek to do the Master's work. We will apply this visualization as an act of the will, seeing untold and unlimited sums of money pouring into the hands of those who seek to do the Master's work. And then we say aloud with conviction and emphasis, "He for whom the whole world waits has said that whatsoever shall be asked in his name, and with faith in the response, will see it accomplished." And we do remember at the same time that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So it is that our faith puts us in touch with the source of supply. So now we make our request. We ask the needed supply of money for our definite, defined purpose. And we say to ourselves, inwardly or aloud, "I ask the needed money for," and we fill in the blank there. And I can demand it because from the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. we imagine that we are gathered at the feet of the great avatar of love. And we say together, we have gathered in your name, Lord Maitreya. Be with us. And we prepare to give our offering to the Christ, whatever it might be. There are so many different ways to help. We have to choose how we will direct resources. The plan comes first. And so we do plan our financial cooperation with Hierarchy. And DK advises us, be practical and realistic, and know that if you do not give, you may not ask, for you have no right to evoke that which you do not share. We attempt to feel true love sweeping through us. And to express that love to all whom we may contact, that uplifting love which is the great attractive and selfless agent in world affairs. And we are practical and rhythmic in our giving to whatever project or organization will advance the divine plan. So let us do our part. And we will sound the Om 3 times, precipitating love into the worlds of the threefold personality. And we will close with the first of the great invocations, calling for light and goodwill and understanding among human beings. We've had quite a busy time with the entrance of the sun into Aries and the Annunciation Day broadcast, which both of which two you gave yesterday. So we have a couple of days now to assimilate and to prepare ourselves for the use of these energies of the higher interlude. The astrological year has begun. In a sense, the spiritual year has begun with the equinox, the entrance of the sun into Aries. And we ride that current and increase the intensity of our usefulness. The reappearance of the Christ and the work of the new group of world servers, as DK has said, really the two most important, presently important things that he has conveyed. So, lots of love and many blessings from all of us in the communications group, and we'll be continuing to work together as the conference approaches, and we do hope that you are making plans. You can be right in your own home attending this conference, because it's a virtual conference, and believe it or not, it goes on for 12 days. So there'll be plenty to learn and participate in, and there will be the advancement of your understanding as we consider the great illuminator, the power of the fifth ray, the fifth ray Lord. Okay. We'll begin to close now.